Gonzaga University is the home to one of the most successful basketball programs in the nation, finishing as the runner-ups in March Madness in both 2017 and 2021, also having 6 Elite Eight appearances in school history. Under Mark Few, the Bulldogs have won 22 West Coast Conference regular titles, 19 West Coast Conference tournament titles, and have gone 716-143 since he took over as head coach in 1999. They had become a national brand under Few and were even considered as a possible expansion member for the Big 12, yet they currently don't field a football team, and have not for over 83 years. But they used to have a football program, so what happened and why have they not brought it back? Stay tuned to find out. But before we get into this, if you enjoy college football content like this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, let me know who you want me to talk about next in the comments section below. Gonzaga began playing football in 1892 when they began playing on Thanksgiving Day against the Spokane Amateur Athletic Club to a score of 4-4. The football team would play for 6 years until the school would shut the team down in 1898 due to how dangerous the game of football was viewed by the public. The school would ban football on campus as a whole. This was due to the fact that the forward pass had not existed yet. College football was dealing with a bunch of dangerous and even sometimes deadly injuries because of the running game. The forward pass was introduced in 1905, the game became safer and the public perception of the sport began to shift. As a result of that, Gonzaga would bring football back in 1908. Under George Varnell, the school would go 10-1 from 1908 to 1911. Robert E. Harmon would be the only other notable coach that stayed with the program for longer than a season throughout the 1910s, and under Harmon in 2 seasons, the Zags would go 11-4. From 1915 to 1919, they would have 5 different coaches going 11-10-1. Gus Doris would take over the program in 1920, and they began to play some of their best football, even playing West Virginia on Christmas Day, giving the program a national spotlight. The Zags were down 21-0, but in the last 10 minutes, they made the score 21-13, with West Virginia still winning. Houston Stockton, the grandfather of NBA basketball star John Stockton, played a huge part in the comeback as he had 2 passes for over 45 yards and scored one of the 2 touchdowns. In 1924, the Zags would go 5-0, and that team became considered to be one of the best teams Gonzaga would put on the gridiron over the history of the program. Doris would leave Gonzaga to take the job at the University of Detroit, leaving the Irish, as they were known at the time, without a head coach once again. The man chosen to replace Doris would be former Notre Dame guard Maurice J. Clipper Smith. Smith was from Laguna Beach, California, and had served as Columbia, Oregon, later to go on as Portland University's head coach. He also coached the basketball team and baseball team. Smith would go on to become Gonzaga's winningest by percentage head coach in program history, going 7-2-2 in his first season. That October, they would play against Haskell Indian Institute, a Native American team. That was such a big deal that President Calvin Coolidge was made aware of the game. Although they lost the game 10-9, the game began to present Spokane as a progressive city. Smith would never be able to recapture the success he found during his first season, going 5-2-1 in 1926, 5-3-1 in 1927, and 6-2-1 in 1928, to finish with a record of 23-9-5 before leaving to take the Santa Clara job. Under their next 2 head coaches, the program would go 5-10-1 for the arrival of Mike Pekarovich, who would finish with the most wins by a coach in Zags history, but would not find the same type of success as Smith or Doris. Pekarovich was a former Gonzaga quarterback and guard who took over the head coaching job after stops at Gonzaga Prep, the Los Angeles Angels of the Pacific Coast League, Loyola, California, who would later go on to become Loyola Marymount, and Cathedral High School in California. Under Pekarovich, their best season would come in 1934 when they went 8-2-1, the best season in school history. Pekarovich would finish 8 seasons at Gonzaga with a career record of 31-35-5, or the school let him forego his last 2 years of his contract to take the Loyola Marymount job, going 1-7 in his last season. Huggy Hunton, another Gonzaga alum, would be named the Zags' last head coach in program history and coached the most successful player to come out of the program in Anthony Tony Conandio, who would go on to be drafted by the Green Bay Packers, where he would be the 3rd player in NFL history to record over 1,000 yards rushing in a season and was later inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Under Hunton, the Zags would go 6-2, followed by a 5-4-1 season in 1940 and a 3-7 season in 1941. 1941 would be the program's last season, as it would be disbanded due to World War II and never returned. Once World War II was over, Gonzaga students petitioned the school to bring back football, but the school refused. The reasoning behind this was the school continued to lose games in its last decade, which was hurting the school's respect. According to Creme 2 News, the university was also concerned with the football team lowering the school's academic standards and a significant deficit the program had built up. There had also been poor attendance at games. The door was basically shut on the program ever returning in 1949 when the school tore down Gonzaga Stadium, an on-campus stadium that was built in 1922 and was a little over 25 years old at the time of dismantling. The stadium had a capacity of 10,000 people, and they had installed lights in 1931. Between the ending of the football program and its demolishing, the stadium was used for city high school games until it was deemed unsafe in 1947, since it was a wooden stadium. The stadium even hosted a preseason night game between the New York Yankees and the Brooklyn Dodgers of the new All-American Football Conference in 1946. Stadium's demolishing, high schools would begin playing football at Memorial Stadium in 1950, a stadium later renamed to Joe Albee Stadium in 1962, a Gonzaga alum. With the explosion of money in the college football game and the national success the university has experienced due to their basketball programs and other successful programs, many have wondered why the Zags have not brought football back. The school has seen a growing student body and a strong national brand over the past decade. There was even talks about Gonzaga joining the Big 12 for basketball and their other successful sports at one point. Gonzaga's athletic director spoke on the situation a few years back, saying, "If we were to align with a different conference, it would be about that conference welcoming us, not about us changing to be like them. We are who we are." If the Bulldogs were to bring back football, it would be a large investment, and the school does not have the infrastructure at this point to make that move. A big barrier would be the fact that they would have no major stadium to play in at this point. There's not a stadium in the Spokane area that could hold over 15,000 people at the time of recording. To be an FBS program, a school must have an average home attendance of over 15,000 over a 2-year rolling period. Other programs get around this by playing some games at NFL stadiums a few times a year, and the nearest NFL stadium is over 4 hours away from Spokane with the Seattle Seahawks. As well as the physical space, there would also have to be an increase in athletic scholarships by up to 85, maximum number allowed at the Division I FBS level, which would again require a significant amount of funding. Even with a major television deal, college football is not always profitable, which could actually hurt the school in the long run. Former St. Mary's, Gonzaga's rival, chairman of the Board of Trustees spoke in a news release, given the significant financial and support requirement for fielding a football team capable of competing against our Division I AA peers, as well as the impact on funding for our other intercollegiate teams, the board agreed that the best way to serve the athletic needs of our entire student population is to discontinue the program. They decided to discontinue their football program back in 2003. If Gonzaga were to create a football team, they would also need to start other women's programs to meet Title IX compliance, which is only going to cost even more money. Gonzaga already has a national brand and successful programs across the board, and football is not necessary for them at this time. But who knows, things can always change. Gonzaga may also be weary after looking at what happened to Washington State, and it probably kept them from even considering football at this point. What do you think? Should Gonzaga bring back football? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out one of my other videos YouTube thinks you will love right here. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.